The sea boiled beneath him. From the height of the obsidian balcony, Valyr Aurion watched the smoking sea churn and exhale its foul breath, great bubbles rising to the surface and bursting in veils of steam. The air smelled of ash and metal, sulfur and salt. The sense of home and doom intermingled. Long ago, his tutors had told him those vapors were the last sighs of Valyria, the drowned caldera of the Freehold still groaning in its death sleep. Tonight, even that ancient groaning seemed muted beneath the glow that ruled the sky. The red comet burned like an open wound above the world. It bled across the shards of clouds and painted the smoking waves in streaks of crimson. The light caught in Valar's hair, making the pale silver strands seem tipped with blood. Cooled basalt and black glass drank the glow and gave nothing back. Only the polished gold of the balcony rail and his own eyes answered the comet with a fevered gleam. "Fire made sky," he murmured, first in the clipped vowels of the common tongue of Westeros, then in High Valyrian, where the words became older and truer. A sword or a wound or a sign, perhaps all three. Behind him, claws scraped stone. The balcony trembled with a slow, massive rhythm. Valyr did not turn. He felt the presence the way he felt his own heartbeat, huge and dark, hot as a forge. Scales rasped, wings shifted with a leathery whisper, and the dragon's breath rolled over him, warmer than the sea's exhalations, carrying the copper tang of old blood. "Easy, Vharaxes," Valyr said softly. "I see it as well." The dragon answered with a low sound that was not quite a growl. Vharaxes was the eldest of the five, first from the egg, largest in the sky. In the comet light, his scales would be a deep wine red, black at the edges of the plates, eyes burning like twin coals. Valyr did not need to turn to imagine him. The bond painted the creature inside his skull in strokes of heat and pressure and restless hunger. He extended his hand behind him without looking. Warm, ridged skin brushed his fingers, rough as a pumice stone. Vharaxes' muzzle nudged his palm, careful despite the power behind it. "You remember the last sign?" Valyr said, keeping his voice low, as if speaking too loudly might wake whatever slept beneath the waves. The earth shook, the mountains cried smoke, the sky went dark at noon. That sign was for endings. He lifted his gaze to the comet again. "This one is for beginnings." The thought came to him with the inevitability of breathing. All his life he had been taught to measure omens, to balance them against caution, to weigh danger as finely as a money changer weighed coins. All his life he had lived in the shadow of another disaster, in a city that was a secret, in a people that pretended to be ghosts. The comet cut across that weighing and pretending like a sword through cobweb. On the horizon, beyond the steam and haze, fragments of the old Valyrian peninsula jutted from the water like obsidian teeth. Between those teeth, far beyond sight, lay the lands of the west. The fat plains and high keeps of the Seven Kingdoms, the place where the last known dragons had burned and died. The tales that reached this hidden isle spoke of a usurped throne of iron, of 5 kings warring, of wolves and lions and stags and krakens and roses tearing one another apart. A battlefield of crowns, and no dragons to claim it. "Do you smell it?" Valyr asked. Vharaxes lifted his head, nostrils flaring. The dragon's awareness brushed his own, fainter this time. Even with their shared blood and years together, Vharaxes' senses were his own, tangled but not merged. The dragon smelled the sea, the smoke, the ash. Wind tugged at Valyr's hair again, cool and damp. "Not yet," Valyr said, "but we will. Soon." He heard footsteps behind him, light on the glass-slick floor, trying not to disturb him and failing. Only one person in the enclave walked with that particular mix of hesitation and boldness. "You should not stand so near the edge," said Valyr Aurion, his sister. "If Vharaxes twitches in his sleep, you will be dashed on the rocks and Mother will have to decide whether to drown herself now or later." "Vharaxes is awake," Valyr said, glancing back over his shoulder at her. "And if he wished me dead, no edge would save me." Nyria joined him at the rail, her own silver hair braided back tightly from a face all sharp angles and sharper eyes. The comet painted a line of red along her cheekbone, like a cut that had forgotten to bleed. "It is brighter tonight," she said. "It will be brighter still tomorrow," Vaelar replied, "and the day after, until we answer it." Neria's lips thinned. "You will speak as boldly before the council?" "I will speak more boldly," Vaelar said. "They have hidden behind smoke and stories for too long. Even dragons grow weak if chained to the same perch." Vharaxes shifted again, as if hearing the word, as if remembering iron and fire that were not his choice. His tail, barbed and heavy, scraped sparks from the stone. "We will not be weak," Vaelar promised softly, "to dragon and sister and comet all at once. Not if we are first to seize the world's throat while its kings gnaw on each other's bones." Neria shivered, though the air was warm. "Then tomorrow we begin," she said. "Tonight, Mother will want you to sleep." "I will dream," Vaelar corrected. "Sleep is for those who are content with what is. I intend to take what should be." He turned from the railing at last, laying his palm flat against Vharaxes' snout one more time. Heat soaked into his skin, up his arm, into his chest. The dragon's eye, close as a jewel, regarded him with a depth that no man's gaze ever held. For an instant, Vaelar felt weightlessness, as if he stood on the edge of some vast fall, the world below, the comet above, his choices the only bridge between. Then he stepped back, and the feeling passed, leaving only the echo. "Rest," he told Vharaxes. "Tomorrow night, you fly with me into history." Vharaxes' answer was a slow exhale, hot and heavy, like the breath of a forge. Vaelar left the balcony and the open sky behind. The comet burned on, dragging its bloody tail across the dark as if marking a path only he was willing to follow. The council chamber was a hollow of black glass carved into the island's highest tower, the walls curved and gleaming, the dome above etched with the faint, ghostly outlines of dragons lost to fire and time. Glass candles burned in niches around the room, their pale green flames casting sickly light that never seemed to flicker no matter how the sea winds howled outside. Vaelar stood at the center of the round table, feeling their eyes on him. "The omen is clear," said Archon Maelor. His voice cracked with years but hard as cooled steel. "That comet burns for war. It is no summons to leave our refuge and throw ourselves on the swords of barbarians." "We were once the barbarians," Vaelar said, keeping his tone even. "To the Giscari, to the Rhoynar, to anyone who saw us coming. We did not forget that simply because the earth shook." "The earth shook," Maelor snapped, "and the mountains vomited fire, and the sea rose to swallow our towers. The Freehold died. We remain because we did not chase omens like children chasing fireflies." Murmurs of agreement circled the table. Old faces, young ones, though none as young as Vaelar, turned toward him, gilded eyes cool and wary. The Aurions had ruled this hidden shard of Valyria for generations beyond memory. Each one had inherited not only the blood of Dragonlords, but the weight of their failure. "We remain," Vaelar said, "because our ancestors refused to die. They bent spells to shield this island. They bred dragons in dark caverns. They carved our city from ash and smoke. They did not do all of that so we could fade into stories while upstart kings play at empire across the sea." Neria sat at his right hand, though she was not formally part of the council. She watched their faces more than she watched him, counting the flinches and shifts, the tightening of jaws. He took strength from that silent accounting. "The West is in chaos," Vaelar continued, circling the table. His hand brushed the polished surface, traced the carved lines of an old map etched there. Valyria as it had been, not the shattered ruin it was now. 5 kings, they say, all clamoring for a throne built from stolen swords. Wolves from the snow, lions from gold, stags, krakens, roses. None of them has dragons. None of them knows what true power is. They fight like blind men in a burning hall while the roof falls around them. "And you would have us run into that hall?" asked Lady Rhoynar, her hair white as bone, her fingers heavy with rings carved from dragon bone and blackened steel. "We are few, Vaelar. Our dragons are 5. Our ships are fewer. This island defends us. The world does not. The world is exactly what will not protect us, Valyr said. Do you think the doom sleeps forever? The tremors grow stronger every year. The sea boils hotter. There are no safe harbors. We can die here slowly, one by one, until our dragons are tails and our blood is a rumor. Or we can seize a land that is not choking on poison and carve a new freehold from its weakness. Archon Maelor's eyes narrowed. You speak as if conquest were as simple as crossing a room. Those upstart kings command legions, castles, fleets. The last king who rode dragons to Westeros died on his own throne, killed by a man with a hammer. That king's dragons were dying, Valyr replied. Inbred, stunted, chained. Ours are young and strong. Our blood has not thinned. More than that. He raised his hand, and the glass candles around the room brightened, their green flames stretching, flickering in answer to his will. A low murmur ran through the council. Some of the older lords clutched talismans at their throats. More than that, Valyr said softly. We have learned from our father's failures. The world beyond the chamber brushed against his senses as he focused. Not clearly. The glass candles could not show him faces as easily as his tutors claimed they had in days of old. But impressions came like scents carried on a shifting wind. The crash of distant seas that were not the smoking sea. The clamor of iron on iron. The roar of crowds in cities that stank not of ash but of tar and horse and human sweat. He saw banners in the mind's corner of his eye. A snarling direwolf on gray, a golden lion on crimson, a flaming heart, a crowned stag, a kraken's curling arms. It was all fleeting, scattered, but the sense of chaos, of blood spilled without direction, was unmistakable. They do not know where to strike, Valyr said. They fight for fathers and brothers and queens and thrones. We will fight for something larger. And what is that? Maelor asked. Your glory, our survival, Valyr said. Our restoration, a freehold not bound to a dying land. A realm where dragons rule the sky and the ground beneath them does not try to kill them. The Valyrian Empire is gone. Let the world learn the shape of the Aurion Dominion instead. Rhaenyra's fingers tightened around the carved dragon ring. You speak as if you were already crowned. Valyr met her gaze. Crowns follow dragons, Lady Rhaenyra. Always. Silence stretched across the chamber. Glass flames hissed softly. It was Nyria who broke it. If we wait, she said, her voice like a knife slicing cloth. What changes? The kings in the west will either tear each other apart or one will rise higher than the others. Either way, we face a realm hardened by war, not softened by it. This is the moment when all eyes look inward, not outward. It is easier to claim a table while the players are fighting than when one sits alone with his winnings. Maelor shot her a sharp look, but he did not rebuke her. That Valyr took as a sign. Send scouts, suggested Lord Vharaxes, who oversaw the breeding caverns. A single ship can be lost without breaking us. Let them bring back more than whispers. And when they do, Valyr asked, how many more years will we spend studying, weighing, dithering while our dragons scrape their wings against the same mountains until their joints stiffen and their fire dwindles? Dragons are not meant to rot on a single perch. Neither are we. Rhaenyra's gaze slid to Nyria. Your mother will not like this, she said. She named him heir because he thinks as she does, Nyria replied. She remembers what we were, as she remembers what we lost, Maelor countered. Valyr spread his hands. We will lose more if we cling to black glass and boiling surf until the last of us slips quietly into the steam. I will go, whether with your blessing or without. I will take Vharaxes and his brothers and sisters. I will find the weakest throat among those 5 warring kings and put my hand upon it. You may remain, if you wish, as caretakers of memories. I was born to be more. He expected shouting, perhaps, accusations. Instead, there was only the whisper of glass candles and the distant, muffled roar of the sea. At last, Maelor exhaled. It sounded like air escaping a cracked bellows. "You are your mother's son," he said. "She would have burned half the world to rebuild the other half in her image." "She did not have 5 grown dragons," Valyr said. "No," Valyr agreed. "She had a ship full of terrified cousins and a single hatchling that died before we made landfall." He studied Valyr for a long moment. "Very well. Take your dragons. Take a fleet. Take those fool enough to follow you. But do not pretend you do not have our blessing. If you succeed, we all rise on your wings. If you fail, if I fail," Valyr finished quietly, "we burn, and the world will never know we survived the doom at all." "Perhaps that is kinder," Rhaenyra murmured. Valyr inclined his head to them, a warrior's bow rather than a supplicant's. The decision settled over him like armor, heavy but fitted. "I will not fail," he said. The comet burned through the narrow slit of a window above them, its red light cutting a thin crack in the darkness like a promise. The breeding caverns lay deep beneath the island, where the rock grew soft and the air was thick with heat. Rivers of sluggish magma glowed in channels carved by hands long dead, casting a dull orange light that made every shadow seem alive. Chains rattled in the distance, heavy and hollow, though no dragon on the island had worn iron in Valyr's lifetime. He refused to allow it. The first roar hit him before he even reached the main chamber, reverberating through stone and bone alike. It was not anger, not quite, restlessness, impatience, an echo of what churned in his own chest. "They feel it too," Aurex said beside him, wiping sweat from his brow with a soot-stained sleeve. The Dragon Master's once black hair was mostly gray now, his skin leathered, his arms corded with the strength of decades spent hauling chains and meat and saddles. "That thing in the sky, the way the world holds its breath. They were never meant to sleep beneath rock forever." "Nor were we," Valyr said. The cavern opened before them like the inside of a vast, molten heart. The ceiling soared high above, lost in blackness save for veins of glowing stone. Perches of carved basalt jutted from the walls, leading down to a central floor of scorched and cracked rock. Upon that floor lay his future. Vharaxes was there, coiled like a serpent of iron and blood, wings folded but half spread, as if he might launch himself straight through the stone overhead and into the sky by sheer force of will. His scales drank the magma's glow and returned it in subdued flashes, each plate edged in black. Golden eyes fixed on Valyr at once, pupils narrowing. To Vharaxes' left lurked Nymerian, leaner and lighter, scales a dark steel blue that shimmered silver along the edges. Her wings were longer in proportion to her body, built for height and speed. She turned her head with quick, bird-like movements, nostrils flaring at every new scent. Beyond her rested Rhaezyr, largest in wingspan, his hide the color of old bone streaked with black. Smoke curled perpetually from his nostrils, as if some inner furnace never fully banked. He was lethargic until roused, and then nothing could stand before him. On Vharaxes' other side prowled Elystrix, whose deep green scales mottled with black made him seem carved from the very obsidian of the island. His pupils were slits even in this dim light, his gaze measuring, hostile. He had never allowed any rider but Valyr to approach him without baring his teeth. Last was Murgle, smallest but most agile, her scales a shimmering mix of gold and pale cream that caught every flicker of light. She paced more than the others, wings twitching, tail lashing, as if the cavern itself offended her. They were 5 different weapons, forged over long years of careful breeding, training, and risk. Each one could end a battle alone. Together, they could end kingdoms. The Dragon Keepers bowed as Valyr approached, sweat gleaming on their brows and forearms, their leather and mail stained with soot and old blood. None of them spoke. Words were fragile things in this place, easy to burn. Valyr went first to Vharaxes. The dragon's head lowered, slow and deliberate, until his snout was level with Valyr's chest. Heat radiated from him in waves. Valyr laid his hand between the great nostrils, feeling the rumble of the dragon's breath, the steady, thunderous beat of his heart somewhere deep within. "You will bear me where no dragon has flown in 100 years," Vaelar said under his breath. You will show them what it means to look up in fear again. Images flickered unbidden in his mind. Cities of pale stone and colored banners. Castles perched on cliffs. Fields of wheat and barley. Men in steel, horses screaming. Arrows bending and burning in midair. Vharaxes' wings casting shadows like storms. His heart answered with a faster beat. He moved to Nymerian, resting his hand upon her muzzle. Her scales were cooler to the touch, her breath faster. She nudged him with a surprising gentleness that belied her ferocity in the sky. You will be our blade in the high winds, Vaelar told her. You will fall upon their banners before they know to look up. Rhysr next. He opened one eye as Vaelar approached, then the other, smoke spilling from his nostrils in lazy curls. His skin felt hotter than Vharaxes', almost painful, but Vaelar did not flinch. They will think their walls protect them, Vaelar said to him. You will teach them stone can burn. Elastrix watched him with a narrow, suspicious gaze, his tail twitching. He hissed softly when Vaelar raised his hand, but lowered his head all the same. The contact was brief, electric. You will hunt their ships, Vaelar promised. Their fleets. Anything that thinks water is a shield. Myrgle was last. She came to him without coaxing, wings half spread, eyes bright and curious. She scraped her talons along the stone, impatience in every movement. And you, Vaelar said, smiling despite himself, will go where the others cannot. Streets, alleys. Chase their kings into their own bedchambers if we must. She snorted as if approving of the assignment. Aurex cleared his throat. They are ready, he said. They fly every day. They hunt. They fight each other for sport. But this will be different. Yes, Vaelar said. This time they will fight for purpose. For your purpose, Aurex corrected gently. Vaelar did not deny it. My purpose is theirs, he said. They share my blood. They share my hunger. He turned to face the cavern as a whole, the dragons, the keepers, the heat, and the carved perches. Tomorrow night, he said, voice carrying in the hollow space. We begin. We will fly west, first to the old outcrop they call Dragonstone, then farther. Some of you will come with me. Others will remain to guard this place and the eggs yet unhatched. But know this. He swept his gaze across them, meeting eyes where he could, human and reptilian alike. The age of hiding ends. The world will remember our name. Myrgle threw back her head and screamed, a piercing sound that made the very stone tremble. The others answered, one by one, until the cavern was a storm of roars, the air turning to sound and heat and raw, living force. Vaelar let it wash over him. For a moment, he could almost see the storms those voices would become, sweeping over unknown fields and cities. For a moment, he felt something dangerously close to pity for the kings who had thought their crowns meant anything at all. The war for the West unfolded in pale ink beneath their hands. The map had been copied from a copy of a copy, smuggled through ports and pirate coves, then corrected by sailors' tales and traders' boasts. It bore the scars of that journey, stains of wine and salt, creases from too many foldings. Mountains and rivers bled into one another where the ink had run, but the bones of the land were clear enough. A long, narrow continent, a spine of jagged hills, coasts like broken teeth. Vaelar had spent hours staring at it even before the comet. Now he felt as if the parchment itself breathed under his fingers. Here, Nyria said, tapping the eastern edge where a dragon-shaped owl jutted like a claw from the mainland. Dragonstone, old Valyrian rock, the last outpost of the Freehold before the doom. If you want symbolism, you will not find better. If you want resistance, you will not find worse. Stannis Baratheon holds it, Vaelar said, second of the Baratheon brothers. Siegebreaker, hard, cold, relentless. He believes the throne is his by the letter of their laws. You know much of him, Nyria observed. I know enough, Vaelar replied. The sailors talk, the traders complain, the red priests mutter in their corners. He is a man who clings to rules as a drowning man to driftwood. He will not bend easily. Then why choose him? She asked. Because he cannot afford to refuse me, Valyr said. His hand moved north, tracing the coastline. He has fewer men than his rivals, less gold, less charm. His one advantage is discipline. Give a man like that 5 dragons and he becomes invincible, or thinks he does. Neria's eyes narrowed. You plan to offer him your strength. I plan to offer him enough of it, Valyr said. He will think I mean to make him king. In truth, I mean to make him useful. And when he realizes the difference? By then, Valyr said, I will have climbed high enough that knocking him down will not topple me as well. Neria snorted softly. You speak like the men of the free cities. I have listened to them, Valyr said. We hid from the world, but the world did not hide from us. Greed and fear speak the same tongues everywhere. He shifted his hand inland to where the map showed a river forking into 3. Here, Harrenhal, a castle burned by dragonfire long ago. The story sailors tell is of blackened stone that never cools. That is the legacy our kind left them. Fear of ruin. I would give them a different fear. And what would that be? Neria asked. He met her gaze. The fear of being ignored. At her look, he elaborated. They fear dragonfire because it tears down what they have built. I would have them fear that if they do not bend, if they do not matter, we will fly past them and leave them to be devoured by their neighbors. Power does not always need to burn. Sometimes it only needs to choose. You will make them compete to be your favorite, Neria said. I will make them understand that survival is a privilege I can grant or withdraw, Valyr replied. She studied him for a long moment. You sound very certain. I am not, he said, surprising her. I lie awake and count the ways this could fail. Vharaxes could fall to a lucky bolt. Our ships could be lost in a storm. Stannis could be less rational than I hope and more proud than I expect. The wolves in the north might refuse all oaths. The lions might trap us in some game we do not see. Then why still do it? She asked. Because I also count the ways it could succeed, Valyr said quietly. We have 5 dragons and the blood to ride them. They have none. We have sorcery they thought died in the doom. They have prayers and steel. The world has been without our kind for a century. It has grown used to the idea that men are the highest predators. They are wrong, and wrong ideas tend to end violently if not corrected. Neria leaned back, fingers steepled beneath her chin. The glass candle between them flickered, its green flame reflected in her eyes. You will need someone you trust at your back, she said. I have you, Valyr replied. You will need more than me. She pointed to a small mark on the narrow sea, halfway between their island and Westeros, a speck labeled only with a scrawled word, Lys. There are still those in the free cities who remember Valyria fondly, or at least remember the profit they made from our arrogance. If you pass near them, you may find friends, or enemies who know enough to fear me, Valyr said. Fear and friendship are often cousins, Neria said, a corner of her mouth quirked. As you mean to remind the 5 kings. He smiled in spite of himself. Careful, sister. You begin to sound like a conspirator. I am your blood, she said simply. If you go west, I go with you. He shook his head. Mother will need you here. Mother will command, Neria said. I will choose. You may lord over kings. I reserve the right to disobey brothers. He would have argued, but a knock came at the door, brisk and unwilling to wait. Vharaxes pushed it open a heartbeat later, smoke and heat billowing in around him. The dragons grow restless, he said without preamble. They smell change. The keepers are nervous. They ask when they must be ready. Tomorrow night, Valyr said. We fly when the comet reaches its highest point. Vharaxes nodded, but his brow furrowed as he glanced at the map on the table. You go to Dragonstone first? Yes, Valyr said. Then you had best hope this Stannis Baratheon understands the language of fire, Vharaxes replied. Men who do not often try to answer it with steel. Steel melts, Valyr said. Only if you hold it in the flame long enough, Vharaxes countered. When he had gone, Nyria reached across the table and set her hand atop Valyr's. Whatever happens, she said quietly, you are still my brother, not my emperor, not my archon. Remember that, when all of this begins to weigh more than you can carry. He turned his hand beneath hers and gripped it. I may need you to remind me, he said. Oh, Nyria said, a spark of grim humor in her eyes. I will. Outside, beyond stone and smoke and secrets, the comet dragged its bloody tail across the sky. On the parchment between them, the 5 crowns of Westeros waited like pieces on a board, unaware that someone beyond the sea had finally decided to play. The room for seeing was small and bare by design. No windows, no adornments, only smooth obsidian walls, a floor polished by the feet of generations, and 3 glass candles set in a triangle around the center. Valyr took his place within that triangle, sitting with his legs crossed, back straight, palms resting lightly on his knees. The air was cooler here than in the caverns, but the candle's pale green flames gave it an undercurrent of warmth, like a breath that never fully exhaled. Empty, his first tutor had told him years ago, you must become empty. The candle cannot fill a cup already full. He had never fully mastered that emptiness. Thoughts clung like ash. But tonight, as he closed his eyes and let his breathing slow, they seemed less noisy. Purpose had burned away much of his doubt. What remained was sharper, clearer. He reached for the nearest flame, not with his hand, with that other sense that had no true name. He extended his will as he might extend an arm, and the candle's light stretched in answer, lengthening, thinning, becoming a thread that brushed against his mind. Heat touched him, and with it, distance. The chamber around him blurred. There were other sounds, far away, wind in trees, the creak of leather, the muted clank of armor, the murmur of many voices. They came in pieces, disjointed, like shards of glass scattered across a floor. He gathered them. A banner rippled in the dark behind his eyes. A gray direwolf on a field of white and fog. Snow swirled. Men in fur and leather moved through a camp, their breath steaming in the air. Somewhere nearby, a great horn sounded, low and mournful. He felt their weariness, their stubbornness, as if it were a physical weight. Another banner, a golden lion on red, hanging from high stone walls. Torches flared beneath it, illuminating armored men in crimson cloaks. The place smelled of oil and wine and cold stone. Laughter echoed, brittle and cruel. The lion shimmered and became a crowned stag, black on gold. A hall filled with candles, a man in a heavy cloak, broad-shouldered and scowling, brooding over a map much like the one Valyr had touched. His face was lined with bitterness, his jaw clenched. Behind him stood a woman in red, her hair like dark fire, eyes fixed on something only she could see. Stannis Baratheon, Valyr murmured, the name forming on his lips without his intending it. And his red priestess. The images shifted again. Waves crashed against a stone shore, white spray leaping up to kiss jagged black rocks. A castle rose upon that rock, its towers clawed and crooked, like dragons turned to stone mid-flight. Dragonstone, even through someone else's eyes, even through the warp of distance, Valyr felt a jolt of recognition. Valyrian stone, Valyrian craft, a cousin to his island, exiled across the sea. He leaned into that vision, pressing his will like a hand against a locked door. For an instant, he felt the sea's salt on his tongue, the damp chill of the air, the weight of some ancient sorrow etched into stone. There, within that castle, glowed a different flame than his own. Richer, redder, like coal buried deep. Fire called to fire. The connection snapped like a rope stretched too far. Valyr's eyes flew open. The glass candles around him guttered, then steadied. His chest rose and fell too quickly, his palms damp. He had seen enough. Dragonstone was held by a man whose claim to the throne was as rigid as his nature. A man advised by a priestess who worshipped a god of flame and shadow. A man with a fleet but not enough men, with a castle of Valyrian stone but no dragons to crown it. Valar licked dry lips. His pulse still hammered from that fleeting brush with something. Not quite another will, but another fire. If the Red Priestess was what the sailors whispered, if she truly saw futures in her flames, she would feel the comet as he did. She would feel something moving toward her. Let her, he murmured. Let them. He rose slowly, muscles protesting after too long in stillness. The candle's flames no longer danced with visions. They burned steady, green, innocent. He snuffed them one by one, pinching each flame between thumb and forefinger. They died without smoke. In the darkness that followed, he saw the map in his mind, clearer than the ink on parchment. Dragonstone, King's Landing, the Trident, the North, a path woven between them like threads of fire. 5 kings, he thought, 5 dragons. He smiled into the dark. Let us see whose fire burns truer. The rain came in slanting sheets, driven by a wind that tasted of metal and old fire. It did little to cool the heat rising from fissures in the cliff face. Steam twined with mist, obscuring the drop below, where waves smashed themselves to white foam against jagged rock. Valar stood near the edge, the hood of his cloak thrown back, hair plastered to his skull, watching the sea's fury and feeling nothing of it. His blood ran hotter than any storm. He heard her before he saw her, not with his ears but with the change in the air. The wind carried a different cadence when it brushed against her. The sea's roar seemed to lower, as if listening. Your tutors say you are ready, Lady Aurelia Aurion said, coming to stand beside him. Her cloak was black, trimmed with crimson. Strands of silver hair whipped across her face, streaked with threads of black the years had not bothered to steal. Her eyes, molten gold, had lost none of their sharpness. They say much, Valar replied. They say enough, she said. I overheard Maelor telling Rhaenyra that you are as stubborn as I was, but less patient. I am not sure whether he meant it as an insult or a compliment. Maelor does not know the difference, Valar said. Aurelia laughed, a low, rough sound. No, he does not. She studied him in silence for a while. The comet glowed faintly through the low clouds, a smear of red like blood seeping through gauze. When your father died, she said at last, they told me to name another heir, a safer one, quieter one who would not dream of leaving this island. They said the world beyond hated us and feared us and would crush us if we showed our faces. Valar said nothing. The memory of his father was more shadow than substance. A strong hand, a booming laugh, the smell of smoke and wine. He had died young, in a fall from Vharaxes' back when the dragon had been less than half-grown. I told them, Aurelia continued, that if the world hated and feared us, it was because we had taught it to. That was a kind of respect, twisted though it might be. I also told them that we would never reclaim that respect by skulking in our ruin and hoping no one noticed we still breathed. She turned to him fully, taking his face between her hands. Her fingers were calloused, the skin traced with pale scars from claws and teeth and blades. He looked into her eyes and saw his own reflection, warped by time. I named you heir because you were not content, she said, because you kept asking what lay beyond the smoke. Because when you looked at the dragons, you did not see beautiful weapons to be polished and admired. You saw doors. And now, Valar asked, do you regret that choice? Regret, she said. No. Fear? Yes. She released his face and stepped back, gesturing at the sea, the sky, the comet. I saw the doom, she said. Not with these eyes. I was too young, but I saw what it did to my parents, to their friends, to this land. One day the ground shook, and the sky turned black, and the sea boiled, and everything they were vanished. They lost a world in an afternoon. That leaves a mark. Her gaze pinned him. I have spent my life trying to make sure that never happens to us again. she said. "And now you tell me the only way to truly keep us safe is to take us back into the open, to challenge other powers, to risk dragons and blood and the fragile thing we've built." Valyr stiffened. "If you command me to stay," she laughed again, sharper this time. "Command you? I could no more command you than I could command Vharaxes to roost. You are my son, not my slave." The wind tugged at them, bringing with it the scent of the caverns far below, the heat of magma, the sulfur of vents. "I am afraid," she said simply, "because I know what we can lose, because I have seen how small we are against the whims of earth and sky, and because I know that if you go, I cannot follow." He blinked. "You cannot. My place is here," she said. "If you fail, someone must remain to protect what is left. If you succeed, someone must hold this island for you to return to. An emperor needs a homeland, even if he spends little time in it." The word hung between them. Emperor. He had not spoken it aloud. Not yet. "You give your blessing?" he asked quietly. "I give you what I can," she said. "I give you dragons. I give you ships. I give you men and women who will follow you into the mouth of 7 hells because they believe our blood is worth it. I give you my name, which still carries weight in the shadows. And I give you permission to fail." He stared at her. "Permission? You will make mistakes," Aurelia said. "You will misjudge enemies and friends. You will lose battles. You may even lose dragons." Her eyes flicked toward the hidden caverns below, and pain moved behind them like a fish beneath water. "If you spend all your strength trying to be perfect, you will shatter. So I give you permission, before you even leave, to be less than perfect, to fall, to rise again." He swallowed. "And if I do not rise?" he asked. "Then you die as our kind were meant to," she said. "In motion, in flame, not rotting on a rock we were too afraid to leave." She stepped forward again, placing her palm flat on his chest, over his heart. "Remember this, Valyr Aurion," she said. "Whatever crowns you take, whatever oaths you break, whatever enemies you make, you are not the last of us. You are the spear we throw at the world. If it breaks, we will forge another. Do not let fear of being our only hope make you cautious when you should be bold." He felt his eyes sting, though the rain should have hidden it. "I will not," he said. She nodded once, sharply. "Then go," she said. "Show them what we are. And when you sit where you mean to sit, send for me. I have no wish to die on this cliff." The wind gusted, tugging at her cloak as she turned away. The comet's dull glow limned her profile in red. "Mother," he said. She paused. "I will not only send for you," he said. "I will send for all of us. This island will no longer be a refuge. It will be a memory. Our home will be larger." She did not look back, but he saw her shoulders rise and fall. "See that it is worth the price," she said, and walked into the rain until the mist swallowed her. Valyr remained there a moment longer, listening to the sea, the vents, the distant echo of dragons. Then he turned toward the path that led down to the harbor, where ships waited in shadow, their hulls black, their sails furled. Tomorrow night, those sails would unfurl toward the west. Tomorrow night, the sky above them would not be empty. The harbor was a mouth bitten into the island's side, its teeth carved from volcanic glass, its tongue a series of piers that jutted into restless water. Lanterns burned along the docks, their yellow light fighting a losing battle against the darkness pressing in from the sea. Valyr walked that line of light, boots striking sparks from the black stone, Nyria at his side, Vharaxes a few paces behind. Ahead of them, 3 ships waited, sleek, dark, built for speed more than carrying. Their hulls bore no heraldry, no names, only the faint ripples of careful craftsmanship. Sails, when they were unfurled, would be black as the water beneath them. "It will not be enough," Nyria murmured, watching crates being hauled up gangplanks by sweating sailors. 3 ships, a handful of warriors, 5 dragons. "Then we will take more there," Valyr said. "We are not going to conquer a continent in one stroke. we are going to take a foothold. And if they sink us before we reach their shore? Vharaxes asked. Valyr glanced back at him. Have a little faith, he said. Elystrix does not take kindly to things that throw spears at his wings. Vharaxes snorted. I have faith in the dragons. It is the sea I distrust. The warriors waiting beside the nearest gangplank were handpicked. Men and women both, their armor a mix of blackened steel and hardened leather, helms shaped subtly to suggest dragons without flaunting it. Each bore a sword, some of Valyrian steel handed down through families, most of common but well-honed iron. They watched Valyr with faces that tried and mostly failed to be blank. He stopped before them. You know where we go, he said. Aye, my lord. One of them answered, Rovar, a broad-shouldered man with hair braided back from his face and a scar that ran from temple to jaw. To Westeros, to Dragonstone. You know why we go, Valyr continued. To claim what is ours, said a woman in the front rank, Miriel, whose bow skills rivaled any man's sword. To make them remember dragons. To make them remember us, Nyria added. Valyr nodded. We do not go as saviors, he said. We do not go as conquerors with banners unfurled and horns blowing. We go as a storm, sudden and devastating. We will strike where they are weakest, speak where they are most afraid to listen, and show them a choice between bending and breaking. Some will choose poorly. That is their right. We will not grant them many chances to regret it. A few of the warriors smiled at that. Most simply stood straighter. If any of you wish to stay, Valyr said, letting his gaze move over them, say it now. There will be other chances for glory here. Eggs to guard, caverns to hold. My mother will honor those who remain as much as those who go. Silence. Rovar shifted, his scar pulling as he grinned. I have had enough of guarding eggs, my lord, he said. I would like to see foreign towers fall at least once before I die. Twice, Miriel said. Let us aim higher. The murmur of agreement that followed was low but fierce. Very well, Valyr said. Then you will see them. And if you die, you will die with the taste of foreign air in your lungs and dragonfire on your skin. There are worse ways to go. A voice called from above. Valyr glanced up. On the cliffs overlooking the harbor, 5 shapes crouched against the sky, darker shadows among shadows. Vharaxes at the center, wings partially spread, tail sweeping. The others were restless, scales catching bits of moonlight, eyes glinting. They grow impatient, Vharaxes said. We keep them too long from the sky. They start to think the ground is a cage. Then let us free them, Valyr said. He turned to Nyria. Last chance, he said. Stay, and you spare mother one more grief. Nyria rolled her eyes. She will have more grief if you drown or burn without me there to curse you for it, she said. I am coming. He did not argue further. Some battles were lost before they began. Then get aboard, he said. They crossed the gangplank together, boots thudding on weathered planks. Sailors moved around them, securing ropes, lashing down cargo, their faces tense and excited. The ship smelled of tar and salt and old wood, so different from the sharp mineral stench of the island. Valyr went to the stern, where the tiller stood and where, soon, a saddle would be lashed for him to mount Vharaxes from deck or air. He looked back at the harbor, the cliffs, the faint glow of magma vents higher up the mountain. This had been his whole world. Black glass and red light, smoke and steam. In a few moments, it would become a point on a distant horizon. Do you feel it? Nyria asked quietly, joining him. Fear? He asked. Excitement, she said. Yes, he admitted. Both. They taste the same. The harbor master's horn sounded. A deep, thrumming note. Ropes were cast off. Sails began to unfurl, dark cloth snapping as the wind caught and filled them. Above, dragons roared. The sound rolled over the harbor like thunder, sending ripples across the water. Lanterns swayed. Men flinched, even those who had grown up beneath those voices. The ships shuddered as the first swell lifted them. Then another. Valyr gripped the rail. The island loomed above and behind, a mass of black rock and red glow, smoke rising from vents, the comet's dull smear above it. He felt no anchor in his chest, only a pull forward. "West," he said. The ships obeyed. The world fell away beneath them. Vharaxes' first wing beat was a hammer blow against the air, a force that punched into Valar's bones and shook the ship below. The dragon rose in a surge of muscle and sinew and heat, the leather straps of Valar's saddle creaking, the wind tearing at his cloak, his hair, the breath in his lungs. He laughed into it. The harbor shrank, lanterns becoming scattered stars, the black stone of the docks blending into the larger darkness of the island. The ships were shadows on glittering water, their sails pale smudges in the faint light. The sea stretched out beyond them, a vast, heaving plain of ink streaked with dull reflections. Behind and to either side, the other dragons launched in turn. Nymerian shot upward like an arrow loosed from a bow, wings scything the air. Elystrix rolled sideways as he climbed, a sinuous twist that sent curls of steam spinning. Murgle darted between them, smaller frame cutting through the turbulence. Rheezer rose more slowly, but when he leveled out, his wingspan dwarfed the others, each stroke of his pinions pushing great volumes of air beneath them. Valar felt them as much as he saw them, their presence brushing against his mind in familiar patterns. Vharaxes' ferocious certainty, Nymerian's sharp, quick curiosity, Rheezer's slow-burning furnace, Elystrix's prickling suspicion, Murgle's restless joy. He leaned forward, pressing himself close to Vharaxes' neck, feeling the heat rising through the dragon's scales, the powerful flex of muscles with each beat. Here, in the sky, the tension that had coiled in him for days loosened. Planning, arguing, persuading, those things had their place. But this was simpler. This was what he had been born for. "Higher," he shouted, though he did not need to. The thought was enough. Vharaxes obliged, angling his wings to catch an updraft. They climbed until the air thinned, the sea below a tapestry of dark and pale. The island fell behind them, its volcanic glow a small wound in the night. Ahead lay only blackness, broken by faint stars and the smear of the comet. It bled across the sky, brighter here than it had been on the balcony, its tail stretching toward the horizon as if pointing the way. "Do you see?" Valar murmured. "We follow your path." The wind tore his words away, but the sentiment settled in his chest like a second heart. Below, the ships pushed westward, their sails full. They were slow compared to the dragons, but necessary. Dragons could burn castles and scatter armies. They could not hold cities or feed themselves on ash alone. Men with swords and ships laden with supplies would turn victories into rule. Valar kept Vharaxes circling above the fleet, the other dragons spreading out to either side. From below, he knew, they would be little more than shadows against the sky, the occasional flicker of inner fire betraying their presence. It was not glory he sought tonight. It was movement. Distance slipped away beneath wings and hulls. The smoking sea's peculiar stench faded, replaced gradually by the more mundane sense of salt and open water. The air grew cooler, the stars brighter. He thought of the men in Westeros, sleeping or waking, fighting or plotting, unaware that the old age was ending above their heads. A lion might dream of gold, a wolf of snow, a stag of antlers. None would dream of dragons until they saw their shadows. Valar let the rhythm of Vharaxes' flight lull him into a focused calm. Every so often, he checked the positions of the other dragons, adjusted their spread with a thought, reassured himself that the ships below remained on course. Mostly, he simply rode. The night deepened, the comet burned on, and beneath it, 5 dragons bore a new future across the dark water, their wings beating time to a song no king had heard in 100 years. The eastern horizon bruised from black to gray, then from gray to the faintest hint of rose. Dawn crept up like a thief, slow but inexorable, stealing stars from the sky. The comet did not yield so easily. Its red smear lingered defiant above the paling band of light. Valar saw the coast before he saw the castle. A darker line where sea met sky, a a suggestion of cliffs and headlands. As the light grew, the line resolved into detail. Jagged rocks, narrow beaches, spray leaping up in white plumes. Then Dragonstone rose from the water. At first it seemed another outcrop, a tooth of black stone among many. Then the shapes upon it resolved. Towers shaped like dragons, walls carved with scaled patterns, gargoyles and spines and wings frozen in stone. It was as if some god had plucked a scene from the memory of Valyria and set it here, halfway across the world. Vaelar felt something tighten in his chest. Homesickness for a home he had never known. Fury that this place had survived openly while his own people cowered in smoke. Pride that dragons had once cast their shadows here. He guided Vharaxes into a shallow dive, descending from their high vantage to a level where men on the walls might see them clearly. The other dragons followed, falling into a loose wedge behind him. Their wing beats grew louder, the wind of their passage sharper. Dragonstone's harbor came into view. Small, cramped compared to his own, but sheltered, its quays bustling even at this hour. Ships lay at anchor or tied to piers, their masts like a forest of bare branches. Men moved along the docks and walls, tiny from this height, their movements turning frantic as the dragon's shadows swept over them. Alarms began to ring. The sound was thin at first, carried up on the wind, then multiplied as more bells joined in. Vaelar saw figures pointing, running. Archers raced for parapets. Men-at-arms rushed to embrasures and murder holes, clutching swords and spears that suddenly looked very small. He did not smile. This was not a moment for gloating. This was a moment to be etched into memory for other purposes. Vharaxes bellowed, a roar that shook the very air. The other dragons answered, their voices braiding into a single, fearsome chorus. Birds burst from roosts in panicked flocks. Horses in stables below screamed and kicked. Vaelar guided Vharaxes into a slow circle above the castle, keeping enough height to be out of easy range of arrows and scorpions, low enough that the dragon's size could not be dismissed as tricks of light. He let them see. He saw them in return. Men with pale Westerosi faces, mouths open in shouts or prayers. Women clutching children, dragging them inside doorways. Guards hurrying along walls, looking up and then pointing at something within the courtyard, perhaps running to warn their lord. That will be Stannis Baratheon, Vaelar said under his breath, or his red priestess. If they have wit, they will come to us instead of trying to drag us down. Nymerian glided closer on his left, her blue-gray scales catching the first hints of dawn. Murgle darted higher, rolling in the air with a reckless joy that made Vaelar's heart lurch. He sent her a firm thought, steady, wait, and felt her indignation in return before she relented. He did not intend to burn Dragonstone. Not yet. Smoke rose from the castle's chimneys, ordinary and domestic, smelling of cooking fires and forges rather than volcanoes. The stone beneath them was familiar to his eyes in its striations, its sheen. Valyrian rock, shaped by Valyrian hands. This fortress had been the last foothold of his people before the Doom, the place from which Aegon Targaryen had launched his conquest. Now it would serve as the first foothold of something new. He looked toward the main courtyard, waiting. Men were gathering there, forming into ranks, shields and spears at the ready, their discipline evident even in their haste. At their head stood a man in dark armor, his stance braced, his jaw set. Beside him, a flare of red cloth. A woman, hair dark, cloak the color of fresh spilled blood. There. Vaelar urged Vharaxes lower, enough that those two would be more than blurs to one another. The dragon's shadow crawled over the courtyard. Men flinched but held. Steady, Vaelar murmured. He raised one hand, palm outward, a gesture of greeting, not threat. Vharaxes could have swept the courtyard with fire in the time it took him to draw a breath. He did not. He gave them a choice instead. From a distance, the man at the head of the Westerosi ranks might have been any Lord Marshal. Up close, through the sharp focus that came when Vaelar narrowed his attention, details carved themselves out of the blur. Stannis Baratheon was not a handsome man. His face was all angles and hollows, skin weathered, jaw clenched tight enough to crack teeth. Lines bracketed his mouth and grooves cut between his brows, not from laughter but from frowning at the world. His armor was plain, dark, bearing the stag sigil more from duty than pride. Beside him, Melisandre was another matter. The red cloak flowed around her like liquid flame, her hair a deeper shadow of that same hue. Her skin seemed to glow in the dawn light, unmarked by weather or age. Around her neck hung a ruby that pulsed faintly, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. Stannis squinted up into the sky, one hand shading his eyes. He did not step back. He did not flinch, though men around him shifted, some making signs Valyr did not recognize. His other hand rested on the hilt of his sword, knuckles white. Melisandre's expression was unreadable from this height, but Valyr felt something when his gaze touched her. A tug, like the brush of another hand against the threads, he worked through the glass candles. A different fire, colored red instead of green, but fire nonetheless. "They see," he murmured to Vharaxes. "Now they must decide." He eased the dragon into a slower, wider circle, giving the figures below time to move, to react. He saw one man break from the ranks, running toward the inner keep, perhaps to fetch a maester or a horn or some relic. Stannis did not stop him. After a long moment, Melisandre lifted her hand. Fire bloomed in her palm, small and bright even at this distance. She raised it high, letting it burn without consuming her. A signal, Valyr thought, not of surrender, not of defiance, of recognition. "Take us lower," he told Vharaxes. The dragon folded his wings slightly, angling downward. Wind rose around them, bringing with it the tang of sea salt and chimney smoke, the faint iron scent of many men's sweat. Arrows remained unloosed in their quivers. Scorpions stood ready along the walls, their crews tense, but no bolts flew. When they were low enough that he could see Stannis's eyes, pale blue, steadier than he expected, Valyr tugged on the harness, bringing Vharaxes into a hover above the courtyard. The dragon's wings beat in slow, powerful strokes, sending gusts of wind swirling through the space. Cloaks whipped, banners snapped, men staggered, legs braced. Valyr drew in a breath. The air tasted of another land, another life. He extended his hand, palm outward again, in a gesture that was half greeting, half claim. "I am Valyr Aurion," he called in the common tongue, his voice carrying on the dragon-forced wind. "Blood of Valyria, rider of Vharaxes and lord of 5 dragons. I have come to speak of thrones." The words broke across the courtyard like a wave. Many of the men did not understand the name, but they understood dragons and thrones. Murmurs rose, quickly tamped down by sergeants' barked orders. Stannis's jaw clenched, but he did not reach for his sword. Melisandre's ruby glowed brighter, casting a red sheen on her throat. Stannis raised his own hand, not in mirror of Valyr's gesture, but in a command. The men around him lowered their weapons by increments. "You land," he shouted back, his voice rough but strong. "Or you leave. I do not parley with shadows above my head." There was iron in that. Valyr respected it. He leaned forward, murmured to Vharaxes, sent the image of stone beneath claws, of stillness. The dragon snorted, unwilling, but obeyed, dropping toward an open space in the courtyard. Men scattered as he descended, their discipline tested by the sudden nearness of so much scaled muscle and fire. Vharaxes' impact shook the ground. Dust leapt. Men fell to one knee without meaning to. Heat rolled off him in waves. He folded his wings slowly, like a king folding away a cloak. Valyr swung his leg over, slid down along the dragon's shoulder, and dropped the remaining distance to the ground. His boots hit stone that had known dragonfire long before he was born. For a heartbeat, he simply stood there. The courtyard smelled different from his own. Less of magma, more of sea and smoke and iron. The stones beneath his feet were slicker, worn by centuries of boots that had marched for other lords. Above him, Gargoyles carved in draconic shapes leered down, mouths open in silent roars. Men stared, some with fear, some with awe, a few with hatred. Their eyes flicked from Vharaxes to Valyr and back again, as if unsure which was more dangerous. Stannis stepped forward, stopping a sword's length away. He was shorter than Valyr, older by perhaps 15 years, but there was nothing diminished about him. He carried his years like additional armor. "Valyr Aurion," he said, testing the unfamiliar syllables. "You have a dragon." "5," Valyr corrected mildly. "One for each king who thinks this land his by right." Stannis' mouth tightened. "You come to meddle in our war, foreigner?" "I come because your war is an invitation," Valyr said. "Your thrones are unsteady, your crowns disputed. Where I come from, that is what we call opportunity." Melisandre moved to stand slightly behind Stannis, ruby pulsing. Her eyes were fixed not on Valyr but on Vharaxes, on the dragon's slowly moving ribs, on the faint glow that flickered in his throat when he breathed. "The Lord of Light showed me a shadow with wings," she said softly, voice almost lost beneath the rumble of Vharaxes' breath. "I thought it meant you, Stannis. Perhaps I misread. Perhaps there is another." Her gaze flicked to Valyr then, and for the first time, he felt as if someone were looking back into him with something like his own sight. Not through glass, but through flame. "Perhaps," Stannis said flatly. "Oh, or perhaps this is another test." He looked Valyr up and down, measuring him as he might measure an opponent across a field of battle. "You speak of thrones," he said. "That is my business. I am Stannis Baratheon, the rightful king of these 7 kingdoms." "So you say," Valyr replied. "So it is," Stannis shot back. "By law, by blood, by the testimony of gods and men." Valyr smiled faintly. "Law and blood have done much for you so far, I see." A flicker of anger, quickly smoothed. "You come to offer mockery?" Stannis demanded. "I come to offer a bargain," Valyr said. "You have claim, I have power. Alone, each of us will struggle. Together." He glanced up at the towers of Dragonstone, at the distant line of the mainland beyond. "Together, we could end your war in a season." Stannis' eyes narrowed. "At what price?" Valyr met his gaze, unblinking, letting him see the ambition there, the impatience, the certainty. "At the price of your understanding," he said. "That the age of kings as you have known it is over, that a new power has come from the east, and that even if you take your iron chair, you will not sit it alone." The courtyard held its breath. Above them, the comet burned in the morning sky, a red wound watching the meeting below. Vharaxes' tail twitched once, claws scratching stone. Men shifted, glancing between their lord and the Dragonlord who had descended upon them out of legend. Stannis Baratheon considered the man who offered him victory and chains in the same breath. Valyr Aurion waited, the world's new balance poised on a decision made in a courtyard carved from ancestral stone. The silence stretched until it felt like a drawn bow. Stannis Baratheon's gaze did not waver. His men shifted around him, armor clinking softly, but he stood as if rooted in the stone of Dragonstone itself. Behind Valyr, Vharaxes rumbled, the sound low and dangerous, a reminder that if the bowstring snapped, it would not be his side that bled first. "You speak bold words for a man with so few at his back," Stannis said at last. Valyr let his eyes flick across the courtyard. Perhaps 100 men in sight, maybe more within the walls. Archers on the parapets, scorpions ready. But all of that was dust beside the heat at his back, the weight of 5 great beasts circling above and beyond. "I have enough," he said simply. Melisandre tilted her head, studying him. Her eyes were a dark, deep red in this light, as if the ruby at her throat had bled into them. "The flames spoke of a king in shadow and fire," she murmured. "A man with a sword of light, standing against darkness. I saw you, Stannis, though your sword is yet untempered. Now I see this one, who rides a creature born of the same fire as my god. Perhaps I erred in my reading, Or perhaps there is room in the tale for more than one blaze. Stannis's jaw clenched. "You told me the throne was mine by right," he said. "You told me the Lord of Light had chosen me." Melisandre did not flinch. "The Lord of Light chooses those who act," she said. "Not statues, not cowards. If this Vaelar Aurion brings fire to your cause, it may be that he is a tool in your hand, or that you are a tool in his. The flames do not show us every line of the tale, only its brightest sparks." Vaelar watched their exchange with interest. Here was a fault line, running between faith and law, prophecy and stubborn human will. If he pressed too hard at the wrong moment, it would crack beneath him. "I do not come to steal your claim, Stannis Baratheon," he said. "You were born of a line that took this land from its last dragonlords. Whether that was just or not, the deed is done. You have blood for your throne, laws for your throne, even a god whispering in your ear for your throne. All I offer is fire." "And in return?" Stannis asked. "In return," Vaelar said, "you acknowledge that the age of dragonlords did not end when your usurper's hammer fell on the last of the Targaryens. You acknowledge that above kings, there can be something greater." The Freehold had no single king. It had archons, magistrates, lords of flame. Call me what you like, emperor, high king, lord paramount of fire. I care little for the syllables. I care that when you sit your iron chair, you remember you do so not by the grace of your gods, nor your laws, but by the grace of my dragons. A murmur rippled through the courtyard at his audacity. Hands tightened on spear shafts. One man swore under his breath. Stannis's eyes burned, blue as winter sky. "You ask me to bow," he said. "I ask you to share," Vaelar replied. "You rule the land. I rule the sky. You pass laws. I decide which kingdoms are allowed to have them. In practice, little may change for your subjects. Their taxes will still go to your coffers. Their quarrels will still fill your ears. Only when they forget the shape of dragonfire will they remember that there is a power above their king." Stannis's mouth twisted. "You speak of sharing as if you have already taken what you want." Vaelar spread his hands. "Have I? Your iron throne remains in a city you do not hold, occupied by a boy with a crown carved from lies. Your enemies outnumber your allies. Your ships alone cannot break their walls. I could burn that boy on his own battlements by noon tomorrow, if I chose to fly hard and fast and damn the rest. I do not. I come here first. To you. That is my respect for your claim. Do not mistake it for weakness." Stannis opened his mouth, perhaps to refuse, perhaps to argue further, but another voice cut in. "My lord," said a man stepping forward from the ranks behind him. He wore no rich cloak, only a plain leather jerkin over mail. His beard was shot with gray, his face sun-browned and creased, his eyes keen. "If I may," Stannis shot him a baleful look. Davos Seaworth, Vaelar thought, recognizing the name from sailors' stories. Smuggler turned knight, the Onion Knight. A man whose loyalty had been bought not with promises of glory but with the simple coin of justice. "You have words, then speak them," Stannis said grudgingly. Davos bowed his head briefly to Vaelar, more out of courtesy than deference. "My king," he said, "I've seen what fire can do. I've seen it take fingers and lives, ships and cities. I've seen men worship it and men run from it. What I've not seen is any man hold it in his hands for long without being burned. You counsel me to refuse?" Stannis demanded. "I counsel you to weigh," Davos said. "You cannot take King's Landing without more strength than we have. That's truth. This man has strength. That's another. But he speaks of ruling above kings. That's a third truth, and one that sits ill in my gut. If you take his bargain, you may win your throne. Then find your sword arm tied to his leash." Vaelar watched Stannis's face. There it was. The struggle between need and pride, between the rigid lines of law and the jagged crisis of reality. He had seen similar calculations in the eyes of archons when a volcano tremored below their feet. "You speak wisely, Ser Davos," he said. "Fire burns the careless. But consider another truth. If you refuse me, I will not vanish. I will not turn back across the sea and leave you to your squabbles. I will choose another to lend my dragons to. And whichever king I choose will not be as inclined as I am to honor your claim." He let the implication hang. Robb Stark, Renly Baratheon, even the wretched boy on the throne in King's Landing. Dragons could make any crown brighter. Melisandre's smile was small and sharp. "The Lord of Light sends us tests," she said. Sometimes they are temptations. Sometimes they are gifts. Often they are both." Stannis looked from Valyr to Vharaxes to the distant outline of his castle's towers, as if expecting them to offer counsel. At last, he said, "You will not demand I name you king." "No," Valyr said. "You will not demand I name you heir." Valyr's lips quirked. "I have no need of your name for that. You will not interfere with my laws, my judgments, my rights as king," Stannis pressed, his voice harsh. "So long as your judgments do not threaten the dragons or the realm I mean to build," Valyr said. "There are lines I will not allow any man to cross. But I have no interest in setting your tariffs or judging your poachers." Stannis's jaw worked. "And when our interests conflict? Then we will see whose fire burns hotter," Valyr said calmly. "But that is a question for tomorrow. Today, your question is simpler. Will you march to war with dragons at your back? Or will you watch another man do so?" The wind gusted, carrying the distant crash of waves. Vharaxes shifted his weight, stone groaning beneath his claws. Stannis closed his eyes for a heartbeat, as if in prayer, though Valyr doubted he addressed any god. When he opened them again, they were flint. "Very well," he said. "You will have harbor at Dragonstone. You will fight beside me against the Lannisters and the false king they prop up. When King's Landing falls, I will sit the Iron Throne. But I will remember who set it under me. You will not like how I remember it, Aurion, but I will not forget." "I would be disappointed if you did," Valyr said. Melisandre stepped forward, her gaze sweeping from dragon to man, from comet to keep. "Then it is done," she said. "The Lord of Light weaves a new thread into his tapestry. Fire joins fire. Let us see what darkness flees." The great hall of Dragonstone was a cavern of shadows and stone dragons. Columns carved like coiled WRMS rose to support a ceiling lost in gloom. Their eyes, once set with gems, were empty sockets now, watching as if waiting for something to make them whole again. At the hall's center rested the painted table, its ancient wood carved into the shape of Westeros from the wall to the Stormlands, its surface stained and scarred by generations of lords who had traced campaigns across it with greedy fingers. Valyr stood at the northern edge of that table, fingertips resting on the carved ridges of the wall. Stannis stood opposite, near the painted shores of Dorne, his hands splayed over the narrow sea. Candles clustered along the edges, their wax runnels mingling with rivers and coasts, turning this map of kingdoms into a landscape of melted fat and flame. "You see," Valyr said, drawing a line with his finger from Dragonstone's carved shape to the mouth of the Blackwater Rush. "From here, your ships can strike straight at their harbor. With dragons above, their walls mean little. You break their fleet, I burn their towers, and before they know it, the Boy King's head is mounted on his own gate." Davos's shoulders hunched at the casual brutality, but he held his tongue. Stannis frowned at the table. "Coming straight at them is what they expect," he said. "They will have traps laid. Wildfire if the pyromancers spoke true to my spies. The Lannisters are not fools, whatever else they may be. My fleet is not large enough to be squandered against green fire and chains. The wildfire is more danger to them than to us," Valyr said. "Dragonfire does not burn as theirs does. Consumes. It devours. It could turn their own sorcery back upon them." "And if you misjudge?" Davos asked quietly. "If the two fires meet and you lose control? The last time the Mad King played with wildfire, half of King's Landing nearly went up with him. I was there running onions through their blockade. I remember the stories. You would repeat his folly." "I am not Aerys Targaryen," Valyr said. a flicker of annoyance dancing beneath his calm. "I do not delight in flame for its own sake. I use it as a sword uses steel." "Steel can still slip," Davos said. "Spoken like a man who has watched enough blades draw blood where they should not," Valyr replied. "But fear of fire cannot keep us from using it, any more than fear of drowning keeps you from the sea." Melisandre watched them with a faint, amused smile. "Fear of fire makes old men of you both," she said. "The Lord of Light's chosen does not balk at a little heat." Stannis shot her a sharp glance, but did not rebuke her. His eyes returned to the table, tracing lines only he could see. "Tywin Lannister is in the Riverlands," he said. "Harrenhal, last I heard. His forces are there, ravaging Robb Stark's lands. His grandson, Joffrey, sits in the capital. His daughter Cersei clings to him like a bitch to her last pup. His other son, the Kingslayer, is a captive of Stark. The city's garrison is not as strong as they would have it seem, but it is no bauble to be plucked either." Valar's fingers lingered on the north, where the dire wolf of House Stark had been painted long ago with a stubborn hand. "Robb Stark wins battles," he said. "He breaks their hosts, yet they bleed him, cutting his supply lines, burning his rivers. He is a wolf snapping at lions, outnumbered and outgolded." "You know much for a man from across the sea," Davos said. "I have eyes," Valyr replied. "They burn green instead of red, but they see all the same." Stannis' attention snapped to that slip. "Sorcery," he said, distaste edging the word. "I am not blind to its uses, but I have seen what it does to men who lean too heavily on it. They forget that swords and discipline win wars too. And kings who refuse any power that offends them lose wars," Valyr said. "I do not propose we fly blind into their traps. I propose we use every weapon at our disposal, yours and mine." He tapped the table where Dragonstone's carved shape jutted like a claw. "From here we strike their fleet first. Not in the Blackwater, where they expect us, but in their anchorage along the coast. Burn their ships at their moorings. Leave them scrambling. Then, when they think us crippled and far, we descend on the city from above while your remaining ships harrow the bay. They will not know where to look." Davos scratched at his beard. "They'll know after the first port goes up," he said. "Word travels faster than fire, sometimes. Not when carried by dragon wings," Valyr said. Melisandre drifted closer to the table, her fingers hovering above the painted shapes. "I have seen the city in my flames," she said. "I have seen it burning. I thought it was your work, Stannis. Perhaps it is his. Perhaps it is both. But the fires showed me more than walls and towers. They showed me shadows in the north, dead men walking, blue eyes in a storm of snow." Stannis' mouth curled. "We have our own dead men to worry about," he said. "I will not chase phantoms while my enemies hold my throne." "Phantoms become armies when ignored," Melisandre said. "But I am not your conscience, only your guide. The flames are clear on one thing. The boy in the capital must fall. How he falls, that path is more clouded." Valyr's gaze lingered on the north a moment longer. White space above the wall, unmarked by sigils. The map's creator had not deemed whatever lay there worth carving. "If this city must burn," he said, "better it burn quickly, under a controlled flame, than slowly in a war of attrition that kills thousands for nothing." "You speak as if people are kindling," Davos said. "I speak as if I have seen a city swallowed by fire and earth," Valyr replied quietly. "You have seen too in your way. The doom took more souls in a day than a dozen sacks of King's Landing ever would. That silenced them for a moment, the only sown. Was the crackle of candles and the distant boom of waves against rock." Stannis exhaled. "We will not rush," he said. "We will strike at their strength where it is weakest. Give me time to muster what men I can from the Stormlands, from the Reach if any will still come when they see dragons in my service. We will plan. We will not let your power go to our heads like wine." Valyr inclined his head. "Very well," he said. "Gather your lord's bannermen. I will see to my dragons and my ships. When you are ready to move, so am I." Melisandre's eyes glinted. "The comet burns bright," she said. "It will not wait forever for its meaning to be claimed. It will burn whether we move today or a week from now," Stannis said curtly. "I will not be rushed by stars or foreigners." Valyr smiled faintly. "You will be rushed by necessity, then, if not by me," he said. "The other kings do not sit idle while we speak." He straightened, fingers leaving the painted table. For a heartbeat, he imagined not the 7 crowns but a single unbroken landscape, not divided by petty lines and sigils but bound by one will. The corridors of Dragonstone were ghosts of a home he had never had. Valyr left the great hall while Stannis barked orders and Melisandre murmured prayers, his feet carrying him along hallways worn smooth by long-dead boots. The air was cooler here than on his island, damp with sea salt instead of thick with volcanic breath. But the stone beneath his fingers felt the same, hard, slick, almost warm where the torch's heat had soaked into it. Carved dragon heads jutted from the walls at intervals, their stone jaws open in eternal roars. Once, their eyes would have blazed with gems, their teeth perhaps tipped in gold. Now they were hollow sockets, worn smooth where generations of hands had passed over them for luck or reverence. In some niches, the stone was discolored in a way he recognized. Skulls had rested there once, real ones, the last mortal reminders of beasts whose blood sang in his veins. Removed, now. Destroyed, sold, hidden, he did not know. The Targaryens had brought them here after Aegon's conquest, then lost them over the years to time and neglect. The emptiness offended him. "You let them take this from you?" he murmured to the walls, as if the dead Dragonlords could hear. "You let them turn your beasts into trophies, then into clutter, then into dust." His words echoed softly, swallowed by stone and sea. He came at last to a chamber that overlooked the narrow beach below, its window a slit that framed a strip of gray sky and green-black waves. The glass was clouded with salt spray. A low bench sat beneath it, worn by use. He was not alone. A girl sat on the bench, legs swinging, a book open in her lap. Her hair was dark, pulled back in a simple braid. A blue dress, too fine for a servant, too plain for a high lady of the court, hung loose on her thin frame. Her face, when she glanced up at him, bore the faint, mottled scars of grayscale, stone-like patches creeping from her cheek down her neck. For a heartbeat, she stared at him with wide, startled eyes. Then she scrambled to her feet, almost dropping the book. "I'm sorry, my lord," she said quickly. I didn't know anyone else came here. I'll go." "Stay," Valyr said. She froze, hands clutched around the book's spine. "My father." "Your father has other worries at present than where his daughter reads," Valyr said. "You are Shireen Baratheon." Her eyes widened further. "You know my name? I make it my business to know the names of those whose fates tangle with mine," he said, "and of those who live in castles that once belonged to my people." Her gaze flicked to the carved dragons along the corridor, then back to him. You're a Dragonlord," she said, the word half fear, half wonder. "Like in the stories." "In the stories," he said, "we are taller, crueler, and more likely to throw men from towers for amusement. Reality is duller." Shireen bit her lip, then blurted, "You flew here, on the dragon. I saw from the tower. I've never seen a real dragon, only pictures. Are they very loud?" He thought of Vharaxes' roar shaking the courtyard. "Yes," he said, "and very hot, and very stubborn." She smiled, a quick, shy flash. "Like father," she said, then clapped a hand over her mouth, as if shocked at her own daring. Valyr's lips curved. "In some ways," he agreed. She relaxed a fraction, curiosity winning out over fear. "What's it like?" she asked. "Riding, being up there. The maester says men aren't meant to fly, that dragons are unnatural, but I think he's wrong. I dream about it sometimes. Flying, being somewhere else, anywhere else." There was a raw ache in that last word that had nothing to do with his dragons. Being up there, Valyr said, choosing his words, is like standing on the edge of a cliff and realizing the ground is no longer beneath you, but that you do not fall. The air holds you, the world shrinks, problems shrink, the noise becomes smaller, only the wind and the beating of wings remain. You feel as if you could go anywhere, do anything. Her fingers tightened on the book. I wish I could, she said softly. He looked at her, at the grayscale's marks, at the way she held herself slightly apart, as if used to space forming around her. You know, he said, where I come from, we do not lock those touched by stone away. We listen to what they hear in their dreams. Some think the disease carries whispers from the deep earth. Old things, powerful things. Shireen frowned. Maester Pylus says it's a sickness, she said. That I was lucky it stopped where it did. Both can be true, Valyr said. She hesitated, then held out the book. Have you read this one? She asked. It's about the conqueror, Aegon, and his sisters. They came from across the sea like you, only they had 3 dragons. 3, he echoed. We were less patient with eggs then. He took the book, flipping it open. The illustrations were crude compared to what he knew, but recognizable. Valyrian, Vharaxes, Vhagar, rendered in thick lines and smeared ink. Men in armor like beetles beneath them. You know these tales well? He asked, handing it back. I've read them many times, Shireen said. I like the parts where they burn down Harrenhal. I know it's wicked of me, but Harren the Black was so cruel, and the way the towers melted. She shivered, delight and horror mingling. It's like the castle itself was a person being punished. You are not wicked for enjoying justice, Valyr said, only for enjoying it too much. He thought of Harrenhal, of its blackened towers, of Tywin Lannister currently sitting in its halls, if rumor was true. The idea of finishing what Aegon had begun there had a certain symmetry to it. Would you like to see a dragon up close? He asked suddenly. Shireen stared at him. Is that allowed? She whispered. It is my dragon, he said. I decide what is allowed. She swallowed. Yes, she said. Very much. Not today, he said. Your father would have apop. Lexi if I carried you off without warning. But soon, when the courtyard is less crowded with men who think spears make them tall. She smiled again, more steadily this time. Thank you, my lord, she said. Valyr, he corrected. Keep your titles for men who require them. Valyr, she echoed, tasting the syllables. As he turned to go, she called after him. Will you win? She asked. The war. He paused. Do you want me to? He asked. I want father to, she said. But I also want the dragons to. I don't know how both can happen. Then it is fortunate, Valyr said, that I am here to teach you that sometimes 2 wants can be the same. He left her there with her book and her questions. The sea beyond the window crashing against rocks carved into dragons. For a heartbeat, as he walked away, he felt something like pity for the girl in the stone castle, with a face marked by disease and a father marked by duty. He pushed it aside. Pity was a dangerous luxury for a man who meant to reshape kingdoms. Night wrapped Dragonstone in its damp cloak. The sea was a black void, broken only by white flashes where waves struck rock. Above, the comet carved its red scar across the sky, reflected faintly in slick stone. Valyr stood on a narrow parapet high above the courtyard, the wind tugging at his cloak. Below, torches pricked the darkness, marking patrols and posts. Farther still, on a tower that jutted like a broken fong, Vharaxes crouched, a darker shape against the dark, his eyes twin embers. Melisandre stood beside Valyr, as untroubled by the height as she was by the chill. She cradled a small brazier in her hands, coals glowing, flames licking upward in orange tongues that did not seem to consume the fuel. The ruby at her throat pulsed in time with the fire, or the other way around. You watch the stars, she said, as I do, but you see different things there. I see pathways, Vaelar said. Lines drawn across the sky, patterns repeating. The comet tells me the world changes. It does not tell me how. That task falls to me. And to the Lord of Light, she said. He gave her a sidelong look. Your God did not stop the doom. She did not bristle. My God is not the only power in the world, she said. Nor is he a nursemaid. Fire burns, creates and destroys. He is that fire. He does not save fools from their own arrogance. And yet you speak as if he has chosen Stannis, Vaelar said. As if he has a plan. Fire has tendencies, she corrected, not plans. It flows toward fuel, toward air. It leaps where it can. The Lord of Light moves where there is will to match his heat. Stannis has will, but little imagination. You have imagination, but your will bends too easily toward your own glory. He laughed softly. You read much in so little time. I read flames, she said. Men are simpler. He nodded toward the brazier. And what do they say now? She lifted it slightly, eyes dropping to the flickering tongues. For a moment, her expression softened. Then it sharpened again, shadows from the fire clawing at her cheekbones. I see a city of red stone, she murmured. Spikes and towers. A river choked with green fire. I see dragons above it, wings black against smoke. I see men screaming, their flesh running like wax. I see a boy with a golden crown, his mouth open, nothing but ash coming out. King's Landing, Vaelar said. Joffrey Baratheon's death. That much requires no prophecy. She ignored the jibe. I see more, she said. A plain of snow, a wall of ice taller than any tower here. Figures moving atop it, tiny as ants. Something beating against it from the north. Something that does not breathe. You speak of the tales old women tell to frighten children, he said. Dead men walking, white shadows. I have heard them. I have seen no proof. You had not seen dragons in this land until you brought them, she said. Do you believe they could not have returned without you? He frowned. You imply some larger pattern, as if my choice to cross the sea was not mine, but your God's. I imply that when one great fire moves, others stir, she said. The Lord of Light showed me a man who would stand against the darkness. I thought it was Stannis because I saw him through his eyes. Now I see you, and others. A boy with a direwolf, a woman of ash and blood. The threads tangle. I cannot yet say which will burn brightest. You speak in riddles, Vaelar said. Fire rarely speaks plainly, she replied. It shows possibilities, not destinies. But of one thing I am certain. Whatever war you and your dragons wage over thrones will be a skirmish beside the war that is coming from the cold. He looked north, though the night hid everything beyond the castle. Somewhere out there, beyond seas and rivers and mountains, lay snowfields and a wall he had only seen in flickers through glass candles. His heart itched at the thought of a foe that could not simply be burned and broken. Then it is fortunate, he said slowly, that I intend my dragons not only for iron chairs and lion banners. She studied him. Do you? I intend them for the world, he said. If there is a darkness that would swallow everything, it will find dragonfire lodged in its throat. Her lips curved, not quite a smile, not quite a sneer. You speak as if you are a god, she said. No, he said. I speak as if I am a man who refuses to bow to any, whether frozen or aflame. The wind rose, tugging at the flames. They danced higher but did not go out. I will help you for now, Melisandre said, because your fire serves my god's purpose. But know this, Valyr Aurion. If ever your flame burns more for your own pride than for the war to come, the Lord of Light will snuff it out as easily as I could that brazier. He met her gaze, unflinching. If your God wishes to test me, he said, he knows where to find my dragons. Her laughter was soft and dangerous as the hiss of oil on coals. The sea that day lay under a low sky, its surface chopped into white-flecked waves by a brisk wind. Clouds gathered at the horizon. But for now the light was clear, showing every scratch and stain on the hulls of the old warships moored beyond the castle. They were relics, those ships, decommissioned years ago, their timbers swollen with age, sails patched or removed, ballistae rusted. They bobbed at anchor in a neat line, their masts bare, their pennants long gone. Valyr had chosen them with care. He rode Vharaxes high above the water, feeling the dragon's impatience thrumming through his muscles. Rhaezyr paced them in the air, a pale bone shadow to Vharaxes' blood-red bulk. Below, the cliffs of Dragonstone reared up, jagged and dark, their faces crowded with onlookers. Stannis stood on the highest vantage point, cloak snapping in the wind, jaw set. Davos was beside him, one hand on the parapet, knuckles white. Men lined the walls and lower ledges, eyes turned upward, some shading their faces with their hands, others staring wide-eyed. "Are you ready to see?" Valyr called, his voice carried back to the cliff by Vharaxes' beating wings. Stannis did not answer, but he raised a hand in acknowledgement. Valyr patted Vharaxes' neck. "The third ship," he murmured. "From the left. Take only that one." He pictured it clearly in his mind. The position of the vessel, the angle from shore, the height of its deck. Vharaxes' consciousness brushed his, caught the image, and held it like a scent. With a roar that turned heads along the cliff, the dragon folded his wings and dropped. The rush of air tore at Valyr's cloak, his hair, his eyes. The ship's deck rushed up to meet them, the planks and ropes and weathered railings growing larger with terrifying speed. At the last moment, Vharaxes flared his wings, his descent slowing, muscles straining, wind whipping around them. He opened his jaws. Flame poured out, not a ragged gush, but a controlled stream, focused and narrow. It struck the chosen ship amidships, just below the railing, where the timbers were driest. For a heartbeat, nothing seemed to happen. Then the wood blackened, split, and erupted. Fire raced along the hull, licking up the rigging, devouring old sailcloth. Tar in the seams fed it, sending up thick, black smoke. Within moments, the ship was an inferno, heat beating up in waves that Valyr felt even through dragonhide and leather. The ships on either side rocked in the sudden turbulence, their crews, skeleton teams who had rowed them into place, scrambling to cast off lines and pull away from the blazing hull. Vharaxes beat his wings, rising, his shadow passing over the burning vessel like a second, darker flame. On the cliffs, men shouted, some in awe, some in fear. Even at this distance, Valyr could see them flinch, step back from the heat that rolled in from sea to land. Rhaezyr descended more slowly, coming alongside the burning ship. Smoke curled around him, heat making the air shimmer. At Valyr's signal, the pale dragon unleashed his own breath, not at the ship, but at the water surrounding it. Where the fire struck the sea, steam erupted in great billowing clouds. The surface boiled, churning. The ship's burning hull groaned, timbers splitting as the sudden heat difference warped them. Parts of the deck collapsed inward, sending showers of sparks into the air. Within minutes, the vessel was a skeletal ruin, blackened ribs poking from the water, flames guttering as the sea claimed what remained. Valyr brought Vharaxes back around toward the cliffs, ascending to a height where he could look Stannis in the eye again. The king's face was drawn, but his gaze was fixed and unblinking. That, Valyr called, is what a dragon does when it is told to be precise. And when it is not, Davos shouted back, cupping his hands around his mouth. Valyr's smile was thin. Then it does not leave the neighboring ships afloat. He could see the calculation in Stannis' eyes, the way his mind measured that display against walls and towers, against iron gates and the bodies of men. Fear and desire warred there, each taking their turn at dominance. "You see that I do not exaggerate my strength," Valyr said. "Your enemy's fleets will burn as that one did. Their walls will fare no better than those timbers. Their men will break when they see their strongest defenses reduced to ash." Stannis' voice carried, harsh and certain. "And my cities? My people? Valyr shrugged one shoulder. That depends on you, he said. Dragons do as they are commanded. If you tell me to burn a city to the foundations, I may argue, but I can. If you tell me to spare it, to strike only at garrisons and ships, I can do that as well. What I will not do is let your scruples cripple our advantage. He let his gaze sweep the watching men. You fear fire. Good, you should. But remember who holds it. Remember who it burns at my word. The charred ruin of the ship hissed as it slowly sank, sending up faint plumes of steam. The smell of smoke and scorched tar drifted on the wind, sharp in the air. Gather your lords, Valyr called. Tell them what you saw. When they kneel to you, let them know they kneel also to the dragons behind you. He wheeled Vharaxes away, letting the dragon climb back toward his tower perch, Rhaegar gliding along in his wake. The demonstration had been a small thing in the measure of what he intended, but it was the first time Westeros had seen the true face of dragonfire in a century. Sometimes, to win a war, you had to teach a land to be afraid of the dark again. The smell of smoke from the burned ship still clung faintly to Stannis' cloak when they reconvened at the painted table. This time, the hall was more crowded. Lords of the Stormlands had answered Stannis' summons, riding hard over crag and marsh. They came wary and stiff-backed, their fealty tested by his long exile and the unpopularity of his claim. Some wore their distrust openly, others hid it behind courtesy. All fell silent when Valyr entered. He took his place at the table without waiting to be invited, standing where the neck narrowed the land. Nyria slid in beside him, her eyes drinking in the assembled Westerosi with a cool appraisal. Melisandre stood near Stannis' shoulder, Davos a step behind, close enough to speak, far enough not to presume. "You have all seen what his beasts can do?" asked Lord Valyrian, a silver-haired man whose house claimed ancient Valyrian blood diluted over centuries. His voice carried a mixture of awe and resentment, as if the dragon's presence woke an ache in his bones. "We have seen enough," grunted another lord whose name Valyr had not bothered to fix in his mind yet. "Burning old ships is one thing. Burning a city that fights back is another." "The walls will not fight back," Nyria said. "Only the men upon them. Those burn as readily as seasoned oak." A few knights flinched. "Good. Let them imagine themselves on those parapets, facing a rain of flame." Stannis rapped his knuckles on the table to call their attention back. "We are not here to marvel," he said. "We are here to plan. King's Landing remains my goal. Joffrey Baratheon sits my throne. Tywin Lannister pulls his strings. They must fall. The question is how best to use what we have been given." "What you have taken," muttered a lord with a hawk's nose. Stannis ignored him. Valyr reached out, dragging a small carved lion piece from the capital down the Blackwater to the open sea. "They're fleets," he said. "You have more galleys than they know, but fewer than you need. With dragons, your ships become knives, not shields. Strike and withdraw. Burn their warships at anchor in Blackwater Bay, in Lannisport, along the Mander. Do not try to hold. Simply make them bleed wood and tar until they cannot contest the sea. And while we burn their ships, they sit behind their walls and laugh," Lord Valyrian said. "We've seen what their scorpions can do. The Redwine fleet learned the hard way in the last war. Scorpions cannot shoot straight when the men manning them are on fire," Valyr said, "nor when their ammunition explodes in their own faces. Your ships become distractions. The dragons do the killing." Davos leaned forward. "That might work once," he said. "Maybe twice. But the Lannisters will adapt. They always have. They will build more scorpions. They'll bait you with ships filled with wildfire. They might even try to use your own fire against you." "Let them try," Nyria said. "They will learn that old tricks do not tame new dragons." Melisandre's fingers trailed across the table, leaving no mark. "The flames show me two paths," she said. "One where we strike the city quickly, before Tywin can gather all his might within its walls. Another where we bleed him in the riverlands first, driving a wedge between his armies and his capital. Both lead to fire, both lead to much blood. But in one, the cries are shorter. Stannis frowned. You would have me trust omens over reason? He asked. I would have you trust that sending your ships blindly against green fire in the Blackwater is folly, she said. This man's dragons give you more than brute strength. They give you fear. Spread that fear. Let Tywin feel it in his camps. Let Joffrey hear it in his halls. Valyr shifted a carved direwolf piece into the riverlands, near the trident. Robb Stark already teaches them fear, he said. He wins battle after battle, yet gains little ground. His strength is in his men, his weakness in his isolation. If I were you, Stannis Baratheon, I would send ravens north as we speak. Have the wolf bow to the stag? Scoffed the hawk-nosed lord. He proclaimed himself king in the north. He'll not bend so easily. I do not need him to bend, Valyr said. Not yet. I need him to kill Tywin's men while we burn Tywin's ships. When a beast is attacked from two sides at once, it cannot guard both flanks. Eventually, it falls. Stannis's fingers drummed on the painted coastline. The Starks fought for my brother once, he said. Their honor is not in question. Their judgment is. Robb Stark marched south when he should have fortified his borders. He chases glory while his people starve. And yet he wins, Valyr said. Do not despise victory because it is won in a different manner than you prefer. You need him, whether you like it or not. Stannis's mouth tightened. He hated needing anyone. You would wed dragon and wolf, stag and fire, Melisandre said softly. Interesting. The flames whisper of such unions. They whisper of betrayal as well. The flames whisper many things, Valyr said. Ideal in certainties. This is certain, alone you may eventually break King's Landing, or you may die on its walls. With dragons and northern steel and your stubborn will combined, you will not only break it, you will terrify it. Davos spoke up. And what of the small folk? He asked. The people in the city who had no hand in who sits their throne. Will they benefit from this terror? Valyr met his gaze. The small folk benefit from stability, he said. From knowing whose coin they take, whose laws they must follow. Every day your war drags on. More of them die in raids and famine and plague. A sharp pain is sometimes kinder than a slow one. Spoken like a man who does not fear hunger, Davos said. Spoken like a man who has watched a continent die in an afternoon, Valyr replied. Silence fell again. The lords shifted, uncomfortable. Finally, Stannis said, We send ravens to Winterfell and to Robb Street. Ark's camp wherever it currently sits. We offer him terms, not fealty, but alliance. Mutual recognition. He keeps his crown in the north. I keep mine in the south. And above you both? Nyria asked quietly. Stannis's eyes flicked to Valyr, then away. Above us both, he said, sits the reality of dragons. We will not speak of that in letters. It is enough that the wolf hears there is fire on his side and fear on the other. Valyr inclined his head. It was as much concession as he would get today. Good, he said. While you send your birds, I will send mine. Not feathered, scaled. His fingers brushed the carved dragon that had once represented Aegon's conquests on the table's surface. He moved it just a little, inching it toward the riverlands. The lords watched, some with dread, some with greed, all with the knowledge that whatever lines they had drawn in their minds about this war were already being rewritten. The trident smelled of mud and blood. Far from Dragonstone, under a sky smudged with cloud and smoke, a Lannister supply train wound its way toward one of Tywin's forward camps. Wagons laden with grain and salted meat creaked along a narrow stone bridge. Men in crimson cloaks marched beside them, spears at the ready, eyes more on the riverbanks for Stark raiders than on the sky. They did not think to look up until the shadows fell over them. Nymeria descended first, her steel-blue wings cutting through the mist like knives. Murgle flitted in her wake, smaller but faster, her golden cream scales catching what little light filtered through the clouds. From above, the column looked like a line of ants, red specks moving against gray stone. Banners bearing the golden lion snapped in the wind. The bridge itself was old, its stones slick, its parapets low. Ideal. Valyr was not there in person. He rode Nymerian's mind instead, reaching through the bond that years of training had strengthened. He saw the world from her vantage. The dizzying height, the swirl of clouds, the flicker of movement below. He smelled the smoke of campfires, the iron tang of armor, the faint scent of horse sweat. He sent her an image. Fire-kissing wagons. Men scattering. No prolonged engagement. Strike, then vanish. Nymerian liked that plan. She folded her wings and dropped. Shouts rose from the bridge as she fell. Some men pointed, mouths open. Others fumbled for bows, for spears, for prayers. A few threw themselves flat, as if the stone could shield them from what was coming. Nymerian opened her jaws. Flame roared out, washing over the center of the column. The first wagon vanished in a blossom of fire, wood and canvas and sacks of grain erupting. Men near it screamed, their cloaks catching, their hair burning, eyes melting in their skulls. Horses reared, shrieking, harnesses snapping. Myrgle darted lower, weaving between rising pillars of smoke. She targeted the front of the column, where officers on horseback tried to wheel around to form some kind of defense. Her fire was narrower, more focused, aimed at horses' hooves, at the bridge's parapet. Stone cracked and fell away, plunging into the river. A horse screamed as it tumbled after, its rider's shout swallowed by the rush of water. The whole front rank of the column buckled and broke. Arrows arced up from the wagon's rear. A few clattered off Nymerian's scales, harmless. One found a gap near her wing joint, shallow but stinging. She roared and raged, and Valyr reined her temper through the bond. Not here to indulge, here to send a message. They made 2 more passes. Nymerian bathed the rear wagons in fire, turning barrels of salt beef into charred stumps, setting wheels ablaze. Myrgle harried the edges, picking off pockets of men who tried to form into ranks, her fire snuffing them out before they could raise shields properly. When they had done enough, when the bridge was a chaos of burning wagons, shattered stone, men flailing in the river, Valyr sent the image of clouds of ascent. Reluctantly, the dragons obeyed, beating their wings, rising through the heat, haze, and smoke until the cries below were distant. From a hilltop half a league away, a scout in stark gray watched, his horse stamping nervously beneath him. He had been expecting Lannister movement, not this. His eyes tracked the dragons as they disappeared into the clouds, his hand clutching the antlered helm under his arm. By nightfall, word of the attack would reach Robb Stark's camp. Dragons. Not just rumors now, not sailors' tales from the narrow sea, but real fire falling from the sky on Lannister men. By the same nightfall, another word would reach Tywin Lannister, that his supplies bled not only to wolves in the trees but to dragons above the rivers. Far away on Dragonstone, Valyr opened his eyes, the taste of smoke still on his tongue. "Done," he said to Nyria, who sat cross-legged across from him in the small candlelit chamber where he had sunk into Nymerian's mind. "Their wagons burn. The wolves will hear. And the lions," she said. He nodded. "Let them feel hunted from above as well." King's Landing stank of too many people in too little space. The usual perfume of the city, stale sweat, rotting fish, horse dung, cheap perfume, had acquired a new note in recent days. Smoke from burned ships. Tyrion Lannister stood at a high window in the Tower of the Hand, goblet in hand, watching thin gray plumes curl up from the direction of the docks. The Blackwater rush gleamed dully beyond, its surface marred by charred hulks. The sight did nothing to improve his humor. "Dragons," he said, tasting the word like sour wine. Of all the old wives' tales to come lurching out of the past, it had to be dragons. Behind him, Cersei paced like a caged lioness, her golden gown whispering against the rushes. "Sailors," she snapped. "Drunkards, half of them, the other half braggarts. A few old ships catch fire and suddenly every fool with a tongue blames it on winged monsters." Tyrion took a sip. Ordinary fires rarely leave bite marks in the stone, dear sister, he said. The charred pattern on those hulls was very specific. So were the accounts from the few men who survived. Big, scaled, roaring, breathing fire. You can call them drunk if it pleases you, but the river doesn't lie the way men do. It has half a dozen new corpses in it, all with their skin melted off. Wildfire does that, yes. So does dragonflame. Cersei paused, her face tight. Even if it is dragons, she said. They are far from here, out on the coast, burning a few old cogs and fishing boats. The city's walls have withstood worse. Tyrion's gaze drifted to the distant silhouette of the Red Keep, perched above the packed maze of streets. Have they? He murmured. Because last I checked, our walls have only ever had to contend with ladders, rams, and the occasional siege engine, not creatures that fly over them and set our nice little towers alight from above. Joffrey's voice drifted in from the hall beyond, high and petulant. He was holding court, such as it was, a cluster of cowed courtiers and terrified small folk petitioners, all under the watchful eye of the Kingsguard. Let them come, the boy king was saying, his tone bright with vicious delight. My father killed the last of their kind. I'll kill these as well. I'll have their heads mounted on the walls. I'll feed their meat to the hounds. Tyrion rolled his eyes. Listen to him, he said dryly. So brave, so bold, so utterly unaware that if dragons come, the hounds will likely be cooked before they taste any exotic meat. Cersei's hand clenched on the back of a chair. Father is at Harrenhal, she said. He will deal with this. He has dealt with worse. The dragons, if they are real, are just another enemy. We have wildfire. We have scorpions. The Alchemists' Guild has begged for years to be allowed to play with their green toys. Now they have their wish. Yes, Tyrion said. 1,000 jars of volatile, barely controlled, city-destroying fire. Truly, what could possibly go wrong? She shot him a cutting glare. Your hand, she said. Do your duty. Plan. Make certain that when these beasts, if they exist, come within sight of our walls, they do not leave. Tyrion turned from the window, limping toward the table strewn with maps and parchments. Oh, I am planning, he said. I'm planning several unpleasant surprises for our Baratheon uncle, for our Stark wolf, and for our mystery Dragonlord friend from across the sea. But I'm also realistic enough to know that if someone can throw 5 dragons into this already charming little war, the game has changed more than I like. He picked up a quill, tapping it against his lip. We need more wildfire, he said, and more scorpions, and men who can aim them, and, ideally, a miracle. Miracles are for septas and fools, Cersei said. We have gold, and father, and dragons, Tyrion murmured. Don't forget the dragons. They won't forget us. He glanced one last time toward the smoke at the docks. In some private corner of his mind, he had always wished to see a dragon. Now, faced with the prospect, he was not sure whether he wanted that wish granted. The glass candles on Dragonstone burned differently than those on his island. Valyr had found them in a locked chest in an old tower room, wrapped in rotting velvet. 3 slender rods of smoky crystal, cool to the touch until he whispered the right words and let his will flow into them. Then they had flared to life, their flames thin and pale, more like emanations of light than true fire. Now they stood in a triangle around him as he sat cross-legged on the stone floor, the room dark save for their glow. Outside, the sea murmured. Inside, the air was utterly still. He let his breathing slow, emptied his thoughts as much as he could. Then he reached. The first candle's light stretched, became a thread that touched his mind. Through it, images came, indistinct at first, then clearer. A camp beneath tall trees, banners with the gray direwolf of House Stark stirring in the night wind. Men huddled around fires, the air so cold he could almost feel it through the conduit. At the camp's center, a young man with auburn hair sat over a map, his face lined with weariness beyond his years. Robb Stark, the king in the north. There was a hard set to his jaw, a stark stubbornness that reminded Valyr faintly of Stannis. But there was something else too. A rawness, a willingness to bend when necessity demanded. He watched the boy king mark positions with stones, listened to snatches of conversation carried faintly. Talk of supply lines, of Lannister movements, of the weight of too many dead. He withdrew, let that thread slacken, and reached for the second candle. Its flame flickered, then showed him a different scene. Blackened towers looming against a gray sky, their stones scarred and melted as if some giant hand had pressed them into shape while they were still molten. Harrenhal. In its great hall sat a man in gold and crimson, his hair gone to silver, his eyes pale and pitiless. Tywin Lannister. He listened to a report. Supply train burned on the Trident, wagons lost, men scattered. The Lion Lord's face did not move as he heard of dragons. His fingers drummed once on the arm of his chair. Superstition, he said. Men see a trick of light and call it monsters. Double the escorts. Send more archers. Tell the men that anything which bleeds can be killed. But Valyr saw the slight tightening around his eyes, the minuscule hesitation before he dismissed the tale. The seed of fear had been planted. It would grow. The third candle's light showed him King's Landing again, this time from a different angle. A street of cramped houses, a view of the Red Keep's towers rising above them. He skimmed across roofs like a bird, glimpsing the chain being forged across the Blackwater. The alchemist's guild hall where wildfire simmered in clay jars, the gold cloaks drilling in the shadow of the walls. The city was a hive, buzzing with rumors. Dragons, northerners, starvation, riots. The tension was palpable. He drew back, letting the candle's flames shrink to their ordinary size. His head throbbed dully. Sight took strength. Nyria sat in the shadows, knees drawn up, watching. Well? She asked. They move, he said. The wolf plans. The lion denies. The city festers. And us? She asked. What do we do next? He considered the threads in his mind, the way they tangled around one another. We send ravens north, he said. Stannis will send his offers. I will send something better. Yourself? She asked, eyebrow arched. He shook his head. Not yet. I cannot leave Stannis alone with my dragons so soon. He is a man who might decide he needs them more than he needs me. She smirked. He would find they do not agree. Perhaps, Valyr said. But I am not inclined to test that while our position is still new. No, we send proof. Nymerian's attack on their columns will be told around Robb's fires by now. We will give his men a second tale, one of dragons who do not burn them. He reached out, snuffing one of the candles with a pinch of his fingers. The flame died without smoke. Tomorrow, he said, Nymerian and Murgle fly again. This time, the wolves will see them clearly. This time, they will learn that not all fire is enemy. And after that? Nyria asked. His gaze drifted to the door, beyond which the sounds of the castle carried faintly. Clanking armor, distant voices, the roar of the sea. After that, he said, we make ourselves indispensable. To Stannis, to Robb, to anyone with sense enough to see that in a world where dragons have returned, there is little profit in pretending otherwise. Dusk painted Dragonstone in bruised purples and deep blues. The sea merged with the sky at the horizon, a single dark band broken only by the faint glimmer where the sun had slipped away. Above it all, the comet burned brighter as the light faded, a bloody slash across the firmament. Valyr stood on the highest battlement, cloak snapping around his legs. The wind brought salt to his lips and the distant cry of gulls. Below, torches sputtered to life along the walls, small human flames trying to mimic the greater one overhead. Nyria stood beside him, her hair whipped loose from its braid, silver strands lashing her cheeks. She did not seem to notice. Around them, the dragons had claimed their perches. Vharaxes coiled on a squat tower, his bulk making the stone seem insufficient. Rhezer sprawled across a length of wall, tail hanging over the outer edge, smoke curling lazily from his nostrils. Nymerian balanced on a narrow parapet, wings twitching in the gusts. Elastrix crouched in shadow, only his eyes visible, glowing faintly. Murgle paced along the crenellations, restless, claws clicking on stone. "They look as if they have always been here," Nyria said. "They should have," Vaelar replied. "This place was built for them. Our kind carved these towers. Aegon only took advantage of what was already made. And now you will take advantage of him," she said. "Or of the memory of him." "Memories are tools," Vaelar said. "The Westerosi have told themselves that dragons are gone for 100 years, that their age is over, that men with hammers and swords ended them. We are here to correct that history." She glanced sideways at him. "You sound very sure you can hold what you take." "I am not fool enough to think dragons alone guarantee victory," he said. "We can burn armies, shatter walls. We cannot hold every inch of land we scorch. That is why we tie ourselves to men like Stannis, to lords with roots and bannermen and tedious obligations." "Tie," she repeated. "Or wrap around?" He smiled faintly. "Both, if we can manage it." Below, in the courtyard, men moved like ants, preparing for whatever came next. Barrels rolled, swords were sharpened, ravens were fed and sent. The castle that had slept through so many years of quiet siege now hummed with a different energy. "You will have to choose eventually," Nyria said. "Between them, between Stannis and Robb, between kings and wolves, between this red woman's god and your own power. Fires that burn too close together merge or consume each other." "I know," he said. "What will you choose?" she asked. He watched the comet, its reflection faint on the sea. In its light, the dragon's scales gleamed red, blue, bone, green, gold. 5 answers to a question no one yet knew how to ask. "I will choose what keeps us on the highest perch," he said. "What gives our blood the best chance to survive. If that means discarding Stannis once he has served his purpose, I will. If that means binding Robb Stark to me with promises or chains, I will. If that means burning King's Landing to its foundations to make room for something better, I will. And if it means facing this darkness the Red Woman speaks of," Nyria asked. "The dead in the snow, the cold that eats fire." He exhaled slowly. "Then I will fly north," he said, "and see if the stories of ice are as impressive as the stories of dragons once were." She smiled, sharp and approving. "Good," she said. "I would hate to think we crossed the sea only for thrones." Below, Vharaxes shifted, his head lifting, eyes tracking something on the western horizon. It was only a ship, sails small but visible, beating toward the island with the last of the light. More Stormlords answering Stannis's call, perhaps, or traders seeking to profit from war. It did not matter. All who came now did so under a sky claimed by dragons. Vaelar laid a hand on the rough stone of the battlement, feeling the vibration of the dragon's movements through it. Dragonstone, Valyrian rock, foothold. Chapter 1, he murmured in his own tongue, so low the wind stole the words. Of a longer tale. Nyria said nothing, but he saw the way her eyes shone as she looked west, dragons at their backs, comet above. The War of the 5 Kings had begun without him. It would not end that way.